All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode. That's right, the London is Blue podcast, hopefully your favorite Chelsea podcast out there, and a part of the Men in Blazers media network. Dan, one of your hosts here, alongside Nick, in person, recording here from the Brooklyn side of New York City and having a good time doing it over the past couple of days, having Nick in town. And I think, Nick, as we start off this episode, recording it on Mother's Day, we just want to say a very kind word to the first mother within our London is Blue community of Elizabeth, which is Brandon's wife, and mother to William now, and also to all the mothers out there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you're a mom out there, you're doing the absolute most at most times. And I know I love my mom. I know you love your mom. And so if you're a mom out there who, whether because you want to or because you have to hear our voices on a weekly basis, we give extra credit to you in all that you do. So. Of course, happy belated Mother's Day as you're listening to this on the Monday.
All right. Well, we are going to be getting into the Nottingham Forest match review. We are going to be talking a lot about the return of Reece James and the Reece James effect. We're going to get into considering how good Moises Caicedo has been, talking about how Chelsea and Pochettino are ending this season in very, very strong form, and taking a look at the European dream, TM, still alive. But before we do that, Nick, it is incumbent upon us to tell the people what the listeners came up with in terms of a 3-word match review, the summary for how it all got on the day.
That's right. Of course, Ollie Glanville with Captain Clapped-Back, which is correct. JKT 1089 100 million other numbers. Ugly Crying, Love You Reece. That was good. Led Tasso with That's My Captain. Def Truck's Daddy, good friend of the pod, with No Nottingham Double. Cool. Nicholas J. Gomez with Out of the Woods. The Grick with, I think, one of my favorites of the day. You called this out yesterday. Call a Sheriff of Nottingham. That's good. Carefree Tosser with Delicious Deforestation Devastation. Wow, that's a lot. Cy with Chelsea's Merry Men. Chris Wiggum with We Ain't Done, the, I think, what is this? NFC Rams, whatever player, it doesn't matter. Dan, yours.
It is a question, but it's developing a mentality, because we have wanted the return of a Chelsea team that can, when the chips are down, get into a situation, can pull out a result, who can get things going again. And it was 2 minutes, and a lot of it was Reece James coming back onto the pitch. But this went from being a very, very bad day out with the New York Blues for us to being a very jubilant day where we got to celebrate. So developing a mentality. It's a question.
As I'm in New York and had an excellent bacon, egg, and cheese yesterday, I went with bacon, egg, and Reece, Dan, combining a place that I love with a player that I love. And, you know, not saying that I would necessarily put Reece in a sandwich, but he did put a nice assist on a plate for Nico Jackson. So I'm just smashing them together.
Oh, look, there was no bagels. He was definitely on a roll, as all good BECs should be. But look, we're going to get some quick admin out of the way. We just want to thank everybody for always supporting the podcast, leaving 5-star views on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, if you've joined us on YouTube, super appreciate that as well. Like for this one, you actually get to see us in a room, in person, talking about Chelsea together for the pod. So, let Nick know your favorite way. Are you a roll? Are you a hero? Or are you a bagel person when it relates to that BEC? Roll is the only correct answer. But leave that comment on the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and get notified. Also, sign up to our free weekly newsletter at the London is Blue Dispatch. I'm sure Sam is cooking up 2 really good ones for next week and the week after to round out the season. And then, as always, you can join our Discord community. There is a free and paid version of that. But we are going to get into the match details. It was this past Saturday, May the 11th, in the Premier League. And it was at the City Ground for Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest 2-3 to the good guys, Chelsea. Also in the 8th minute, Mikhailo Mudryk with a Cole Palmer absolutely sub-zero cool assist that he delivered. It was Boley in the 16th minute with a Gibbs White, one of his absolute first assists that he had there. And then no scoring again until the 74th minute when Hudson-Odoi scored. Surprise, the narrative goal was delivered with a Gibbs White assist again. And then, as we mentioned earlier, 2 moments and minutes of madness for Chelsea. See Raheem Sterling 80th minute with a Caicedo assist and Nico Jackson in the 82nd minute with a Reece James beauty of an assist that had it going. But Nick, why don't we get into the lineups and talk about how Chelsea set up and who kind of came out as a part of the show?
That's right, Dan. Look, Chelsea had an interesting lineup, but mostly to do with the bench. Same starting 11 as we saw last week in the 5-0. Georgi Petrovic between the sticks, of course. Marco Correa playing inverted left back kind of midfielder again. Benoit Badiashile, Thiago Silva, Trev Chalobah at right back. Still have a couple of right backs nursing an injury. We have Caicedo. We have Conor Gallagher in midfield. We have Noni Madueke resuming his role on the right. Cole Palmer in the center, playing playmaker, kind of being all over the pitch. And then Mikhailo Mudryk on the left, getting a goal, obviously. Nico Jackson up top. But the bench is where people started to get a little bit excited yesterday, right? Malo Gusto back on the bench, maybe getting a little healthy. Nkunku back on the bench, getting a few minutes in the 58th minute. Raheem Sterling back on the bench in the 73rd, coming in, getting a goal, crucial goal. Reece James back on the bench. That'd be Reece James. Turns out pretty good. Came in the 79th minute. Then the rest of the bench starts to fill out a little bit. Bettinelli, of course, still is the back goalkeeper. Levi Colwill back on the bench. Axel Disasi back on the bench. Leslie Ugochukwu back on the bench.
Wow.
I mean, first time since December. And then Cesare Casadei resuming his role as the guy who never gets any minutes on the bench as well. So I think this is one of the more interesting parts of the entire game that we're going to talk about, right? Because we have, I think for quite a few weeks now, had a pretty threadbare bench, a pretty threadbare plan B, C, D if plan A doesn't go well. And so now you're looking at this bench and going, I got real options here if I'm Mauricio Pochettino. So it's pretty exciting stuff.
Well, you go back to having your first choice right back, your second choice right back. You go back to having one of your top choice attackers as an option. You have an option for your top 3 to 4 winger options that you have there in terms of players coming back in. So definitely giving Poch more to work with. When we take a look at some of the top line stats, it was 1.58 expected goals for Chelsea, 1.56 for Nottingham Forest. We had 68% of the ball possession, 12 shots, 5 on target to their 20 shots with 4 on target.
Too many, Dan.
It's very, very, very many. We had 6 corner kicks to their 5. They had 14 fouls. Definitely felt like it to our 8, though we ended up with 3 yellow cards to their 2. I do believe one of those was the Nico Jackson celebration, which we are taking all day. It was 5 big chances apiece. We missed 3. They missed 4. They hit the woodwork 3 times. We hit the woodwork 1 time. Goalkeeper saves 2 apiece on the day. And the Opta Joe, 1 random stat, 35 since Boxing Day 2023. Only 3 teams have picked up more points than Chelsea, 35 in the Premier League. That is Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. They used the word developing to define that. I would say you could use a couple more and say it's good company to keep in that regard if that is how we're performing. But everyone really wants to know, Nick, what the NPET shithouse moment of the match was. And I think there were plenty to choose from. So let us know. Maybe is it their power ranking? Is it stack ranking? Or is there one definitive answer here?
No, not one definitive answer. I think that there are multiple options. And I think if you listen to the show long enough, having multiple shithouse moments in a match is really where I become happy because it means that we're really throwing it in. And I appreciate that. First up, Marco Correa did some tremendous shithouse time wasting at the end of this game. Really top-notch stuff. Makes me believe that he came from Barcelona's academy, Dan, with what he was doing. And you know what? We'll take it if it's on our side.
Well, he did the Peter Griffin grabbing the knee. Yeah, it's quite good.
That was great. Nico Selly, all time. Dude had a terrible game up to that point, was not playing well. But again, if you're a striker, it just takes one moment. He got that moment. It was a header. People saying he can't head the ball. That was really interesting. Peach of a cross from Reece, obviously, and basically just headed it into an open net. And then, look, I think the team proving my tweets wrong. Why does that matter? Right before Raheem Sterling's goal, I tweeted out something to the effect of people saying that I'm not positive enough. And every podcast I hear some version of, well, it's so negative, blah, blah, blah. The performance up to that point had been undisciplined. I think had lacked any real cutting edge to it. And then Sterling gets a goal, which was really nice. And I think he deserves credit for having not played. And then I said at that point at 2-2, I hope the team make me eat my words. And they did. They came out and 30 seconds later or whatever it was and put it in. And I posted a video of me just laughing in Legends at the football factory downstairs. And, just said fair play. I think there were probably more than just me feeling pretty terrible about that performance. But, when the team goes and proves me wrong, I'm happy for that to happen. So, yeah, it was a real shithouse end to it. I appreciated that.
Look, it was a great day out at Legends as well. Good opportunity to meet Chelsea fans we've had a chance to hang out before, like another Nick, a Nick with a deeper voice than this Nick, which is
Nick
always...
He had a deeper voice than me. Can you believe that shit? That is crazy.
Getting a chance to meet Chris and his group of friends before he's moving to Denver. That was great to see. Congrats on your new job. And just in general, a wonderful place, phenomenal camaraderie there. And if you're ever in New York City, Legends and the downstairs, known as the Football Factory, always a great place to go. Great to see Johnny as well, too. Congrats to him on his graduation from Columbia. So just a really, really great day out. A lot of fun, fantastic drinks. And maybe at some point later in the podcast, we'll talk about all the good places you had a chance to eat at over the past couple of days. But we're going to take our first ad break. And when we get back, we're going to talk about how it was another ultimately good day out for this Chelsea team. But stay tuned. We are back.
Look, traveling for work and or play sometimes means getting to watch the games I want becomes a little bit more difficult than it should be, even though I'm already paying for all of the streaming services, including YouTube TV. When I went to Costa Rica, I couldn't watch it. So I needed NordVPN to watch Chelsea lose to Newcastle over Thanksgiving. But again, it was only made possible with our friends at NordVPN. So now that I don't have that problem anymore, just a few clicks, I'm up and running and able to watch everything I do safely and securely, even if I'm connected to a public Wi-Fi.
With 6,300 servers in 111 countries, it's easy to use. One-click connection allows me to safely access my content I want to watch on the go. The podcast travels quite a bit, and you may have seen us out on summer tour or in London, frequently visiting lots of different places. So the extra security is really nice when you travel.
So to get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/LondonIsBlue. Our link will give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan.
There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description. Of course, you can visit nordvpn.com/LondonIsBlue today.
All right, so I think if we just talk about the journey of this match, Nick, it was an early goal from Mykhailo Mudryk that set the stage. The end of the first half kind of fell a little flat. Things didn't seem to be going our way. Pochettino makes some subs, 2 early subs, and then decides to let things change, let things happen, let them evolve as they may. We go down, and we're now losing. So the concept of will we finish in a Europa League spot? Can we compete appropriately? Evaporating in front of our eyes. And then within 2 minutes, Chelsea pull it back. And I think a lot of it has to start with just those 2 minutes in the 80th minute through the 82nd minute on just the Reece James effect potentially being a full display. Fabrizio Romano had a point on the tweet that he put out that Reece James was back on the pitch after 153 days after the last time before surgery, and it's an assist for the Nico Jackson goal. So I know we love to throw a lot of praise on one Reece James, the captain of the team. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't think we'd see him the rest of the season. I mean, it's obviously getting to the point where I know, and Matt Law said this before on our shows, that he really wanted to push to get to the Euro team. I think that's going to be extremely difficult with the amount of depth that England has and the fact that he hasn't really played. But you saw in the 14, 15 minutes that he was on what he can do. And it was a reminder of like I'm still the king.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not dead yet. That's kind of what I took away from that. I mean, it's a game where I think if we're honest, not our best performance this season. I think Nottingham Forest figured out how to play us, play the most recent version of Chelsea, which is kind of an inverted, kind of tilted team, much more defensive on the left side, much more offensive on the right side, kind of inverting that way. They figured out how to deal with Cucurella in midfield. We called out that there were no kind of channels to run down, all that sort of stuff. And for all Trev's credit, defensively, he's not really the most attacking of fullback options,
Sure.
right? And so, you bring on a couple of players in Malagusto and Reece James who are that. It really does change the way that you play. And the team, I think, opened up a lot. A huge amount of credit to Reece James for coming back on the field and immediately impacting proceedings. That is what we are used to Chelsea captains doing. And, again, it's a peach of a ball.
Yeah.
It's a peach of a ball to him from Moises Caicedo in the first place. Yeah. If you want to go rewatch that one, it's a one-time ping 40 yards down the field, and Reece James makes up the ground, gets it. This couldn't have been an easy situation for him to come back into. This wasn't a cream puff up 5-0 on West Ham.
Yeah.
Sort of, we needed the goal, and he came in and delivered. And 153 days doesn't seem like how long it's actually been. It really, because he was so injury limited for most of the season. But since surgery, only 153 days. I cannot believe it's only been that long.
I mean, you think about it, that's back in middle December. So it has been quite some time. Remember that December was a not so good run of results for this Chelsea team. And when you started seeing some of those injuries pile up, that was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah.
Some interesting things I think that we talked about in the last couple pods, that this Chelsea team was the beneficiary in this month of playing a couple of teams that have not looked good. The Spurs team did not look good. The West Ham team did not look good. And we had concerns that as Chelsea went to go play teams that were better suited to play against this side, that we were going to struggle. And we saw that with the way Cucurella was getting marked. I mean, he basically had a triangle of players around him at any given time, with 1 to 2 pressing as he was looking to receive the ball. So some of the space he was finding, some of the opportunity he was getting in the past few matches to impact was definitely challenged. It was a good game plan from Nottingham Forest to set up and to make it difficult for him. We saw Badiashile struggling on the day, kind of in his partnership with Thiago Silva. And so the early substitution of Badiashile off to push Trev in as the center back partner and put Malagusto on, even though he was getting back up to speed in this match, I think made a lot of sense. And then, the Reece James sub on, where you now have your one 1A and, or number 1, number 2 right back situation on the pitch together at the same time, was another fun little wrinkle for Pochettino to kind of get a chance to roll out, to get a chance to play with. And I think it just goes back to this idea that, if your best players are your best players, and formations are only how we define it and how we try to set it up as we look at getting ready for a match. But players impact the game. Players make a choice of how they're going to get it done, and whether they're playing centrally, they're playing on the left, they're playing on the right. Great players shine, and there was another opportunity for Reece James to do that.
I also think it's like you start to look at that bench again, right? We'll get to his quotes here in a second. And it starts to remind you how threadbare this team has been for most of the season due to injury. Now, we'll never know why that was. We'll never know if it's purely bad luck, right, and all of our great players get hurt in a single season, or if it's something else, something in training, something that could have been avoided, or if it's most likely somewhere in the middle, right? But you start to look at the bench in this game, and you think 4 or 5 of these 6 bench players are probably starters, if healthy, if really up to speed. And what that means for Chelsea moving forward, inclusive of, but not limited to, Reece James, who hasn't been healthy in 3 full seasons. I mean, it's crazy to think about where he was coming off of the Champions League final, and how dominant he was in that stretch, how incredible he was that following season until he gets hurt against Juve. I think he had 6 or 7 assists and 3 or 4 goals by November. You extrapolate that out over a season, how much impact that dude was having for then a Thomas Tuchel side. And you put it in this team, which has a lot more free flowing, a lot more free scoring, a little worse defensively, to be fair. But, as we give up our 60th and 61st goals in the Premier League this season. But it's not hard to see, if you jog your memory back to a time where he was actually playing with freedom of his legs, not being hurt all the time, how he can impact the team, right? And I think he was really excited to get back.
Yeah. So some of the quotes that he had, it was great to be back out there. It's been 5 months since I played. I've been waiting for this return for so long. I'm so happy I can make my comeback today to help the team. In fact, it's the first time I played this year. I was just determined to get back out before the end of the season, be in good shape to help the team. I was glad I was able to do that. It's been a slow process for me to get to this stage. Initially, we thought we'd be looking around 3 months out. And so then to be out for nearly 5 was really difficult for me to process in my head. So again, very excited to have Reece James back. Happy to have his involvement. We have 2 matches left in the season. Maybe he starts the last game at Bournemouth, the Bournemouth match that we have. So we've got that would be an opportunity. Obviously, that's going to be a big day out for Thiago Silva as well, and for the Chelsea supporters to say a lot of goodbyes to some players as well, especially ones that have been important or critical within our Champions League run. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I don't know if it's a full 90 from him, but maybe somewhere 50 to 60 minutes across the next 2 games would be a good little get ready, get healthy, and show us that you're putting forward a plan to be more involved in next season.
Yeah, I mean, remember, this is all him getting the surgery and the longer recovery and all this stuff is in service of the rest of his career, right? It's not just about this year. This year is already basically done, right? Of course, we want to win these last 2 matches and throw our hat into the Europa League and do as much as we can there. But I think, being realistic, we're going to have some luck come our way to get that done. So now it's about, how does he get ultimately prepared for preseason? How does he make it all the way through next season without injury, right? And I think you saw at the end of the game, everyone come over and kind of mob him. Mm-hmm. Mikhailo Mudryk saying he's back. And the rest of the team mobbing him. Thiago Silva giving him a big old bear hug, right? Like, it can't have been easy for this guy who's been so integral to Chelsea to then not be able to lead the team, not be able to be a part of all the day-to-day activities, that sort of stuff. So I say this as someone who has great admiration for him, but I'm sure been just as frustrated as he is that he's not out there. Just come back healthy. And next season's going to be a whole different deal.
Well, talking about players who are enjoying their end of the season running, and that is one Moises Caicedo, who on the day was likely the best player on the pitch. At least that was my personal opinion on it. Gave us a full 90, had the 1 assist he was able to deliver, expected assist of a 0.4, had 114 touches, 92% pass accuracy, 2 key passes. He had 4 of 10 long balls being accurate. He created 1 big chance on the day, 1 out of 2 successful dribbles, 2 out of 5 ground duels, 1 out of 6 aerial duels. So some of the stats don't look great when you start to see it, but just how he impacted it, how absolutely bright red the center of the pitch was. And I think this came down to a lot of things. It came down to the fact that Cucurella was struggling. Gallagher was getting a little bit more further forward into the left to try to engage and work with Mikhailo Mudryk for some large periods of the game. And so in general, there were some really, really good moments from Moises Caicedo in this match. I mean, he was so integral in between how he was moving the ball around, the way that he was engaging with Thiago Silva to try to continue to set up opportunity to make sure that we didn't turn the ball over, that we were trying to reset appropriately, maintain possession. Again, Forest do not do well when they don't have a lot of possession of the ball, which, again, they had 3 counterattacks. They had 3 counters, and they were able to generate a counterattack off of each and every single one of them. You had Gallagher, who picked up the yellow, and that really made it difficult for him. And so I think Caicedo had to be a little more involved, a little bit more thumbprints over the entirety of the match. All the fingerprints were there, and he did a fantastic job on the day. Absolutely worth a ton of praise, and we're continuing to see how good he is now that we're finding some balance for him within how the lineup is set up.
He was everywhere. I mean, talk about, for me, a guy who is really thriving right now and understands his role and is not just the destroyer that I think a lot of people thought we were buying. I think there's some real skill to his passing. There's some stuff that he's pulling out of the bag that I didn't know he had. I mean, that one-time ball he placed to Reece James for the third goal, yeah, Reece is in acres of space. It would have been hard to miss it, but it's a one-time ball in the middle of midfield when you have someone closing you down. Right? It's not easy, right? This is a guy who legitimately, I think, has stepped up in a way that, I think we're all hoping for, but are now seeing the absolute result of it. And I think it makes you excited potentially for what he can do with a full season under, the same system and figuring out how to kind of best utilize his skills and talents, because right now, I mean, no one's touching him in the league as far as midfield goes. I think it's him and Rodri doing everything, and everyone else is kind of by the wayside. So you look at the way that City play, and Rodri is integral to what they do. I think that could become where Caicedo is for Chelsea and the way that we play.
Yeah, if we take a look across just the amount of matches that he has played for Brighton, right? So he played 53 matches played, 49 starts, 4,444 minutes at Chelsea now. In one season, he has played 46 matches. He has started 42. He's just under 3,800 minutes. In the entirety of that time at Brighton, registered 2 goals, 3 assists for 5 contributions. Right now, with less minutes and less 90s, he's currently at 4 assists, 0 goals. So really strong involvement in the game too, finding an opportunity to get involved in the attacking side of it. My question to you, Nick, is as we start to think about the end of the season, as we're starting to think about some of our London is Blue awards, we don't really have a good name. I think we've called them the Osgoods before, the Osgoodies or something like that. We'll come up with something better. But in our informal Chelsea Player of the Season, and we know that the Chelsea Player of the Season and Players Player of the Season is one Cole Palmer, no surprise. I think he's going to be our number one as well. Shocker. But where is he ranking, was Caicedo, in your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Is he in your top 5 players for Chelsea this season? Is he in your top 3? Is he in your top 2? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think the list as of today, 2 more games to play.
Yeah.
Right. So this could dramatically change, and your mileage may vary.
Look, he could get a brace. He could get a hat trick.
Who knows?
You don't know.
But as of today, I think it's pretty clear in my head. It's Cole Palmer, it's Conor Gallagher, it's Nico Jackson, and I would have Caicedo in that kind of 4 or 5 range alongside Malo Gusto.
Okay.
I probably have him at 5 because Malo's been, to me, just slightly more consistent throughout the year. And I think was more of a surprise maybe that he played as much as he did. Reece James injury caveat incoming here.
Yeah.
So I think that is my list. I think no one's finishing the season as strong as Caicedo on that list.
Mm-hmm.
He's playing absolutely lights out. And you might say to me, well, Nick, Cole Palmer is the Premier League Player of the Month, and he has the goal of the month as well. And
True.
I would say absolutely Cole Palmer is amazing. Moises Caicedo is allowing Cole Palmer to have some freedom to exercise his abilities that should not go unnoticed if you're watching these matches. He has been absolutely incredible. And, I think easily my player of this match as well. I don't think there can be any doubt.
Well, we're going to get into talking a little bit more about Mauricio Pochettino, the early subs, how that got on, the European dream, TM still being alive, and then also maybe Nick has some opinions on New York pizza. But stay tuned for after this ad break, and we will be right back. So, Nick, it was a crazy day. Not only because we were getting a chance to watch a match together, which we don't always get to do, but Pochettino decided, you know what, I'm going to sub on players. I'm going to sub on multiple players before the 60th minute. absolutely crazy world that we were living in to have that happen.
I thought it was illegal to do this. I didn't even think you could do it.
I mean, look, there's a lot of ways that things are being adjudicated in games nowadays that leave you quite speechless. Ola Aina potentially throwing down one of our players in the penalty box and getting absolutely fucking nothing from it, notwithstanding. Pochettino's two subs early on makes a call with Badiashile having a really unfortunate, I would say, performance on the day, makes the move off there, and then makes the Madueke kind of pull too as well. So like just in general, I think he was willing to say, I'm going to try a couple things here. I'm going to see if I can impact it. I don't necessarily know if they had any immediate impact. Like we're necessarily like we got scored on twice in the second half. So I mean, or got scored on. Callum scored on the one. We didn't end up scoring until Reece James came on, which feels a little bit more like individual player made it and got it done. I would credit Poch for making the early sub, but it didn't necessarily do a whole lot to change the fact that like Callum was absolutely running riot down the left-hand side and doing the exact same thing each and every time he was getting the ball to make it super difficult for our defenders, that we weren't necessarily generating a lot of extra volumes of shots in that period of time. So how much or how did you feel about seeing the early subs and the impact that they had, and how much do you kind of give credit to Poch kind of for his involvement in this one?
Well, I mean, he took off the two right guys to start in the 58th minute. He brings on Malo Gusto for Badiashile. He brings on Nkunku for Madueke. Now, I think both of these players had a pretty slow start to their sub appearance.
Yes.
Malo Gusto did the one thing that you can't do to Callum Hudson-Odoi and show him inside where he wants to cut in on his right foot. And he obviously scores the inevitable former Chelsea against Chelsea goal, which is really difficult. Trev Chalobah, when he was playing right back, never let Callum cut inside. He would show him completely off to the left and make him focus on a different area of his game. And look, Callum played pretty well yesterday, to be fair. I think you showed the meme of him and Morgan Gibbs White celebrating with the thinker celebration, and the quote was moments before a catastrophe.
Images that precede an unfortunate event.
Yeah. So that was pretty funny. But yeah, Malo Gusto did not play well defensively. I think what he did do is allow a little bit more of an attacking thrust once the second set of subs were made, right? So Raheem Sterling coming in for Mudryk, who played okay yesterday. I think good for him that he got the goal. It was a really good finish. It was an excellent pass. And then Reece coming in for Connor, who looked leggy. I mean, let's just be real about that. So the midfield kind of had a little bit of a different config to it once that happens. But then Reece ends up playing right back. Malo Gusto is kind of up as a right winger. You get Nkunku, Jackson, Palmer, and Sterling kind of all up there, but really chasing this goal. And to me, it showed courage. The sub showed courage. You never know how these are going to go, but you know that you need a goal, and you know you need it badly. Or in this instance, you need 2 goals, and you need them badly. Sterling finishes well for the first. Obviously, we know Reece James gets it to Jackson for the second, and the team is still alive for Europa League consideration. And it's nice to have a bench to pull from.
It's nice to see things too that we have maybe been critical of, and some of us maybe more critical. And this idea that Pochettino has seemed passive at times. I mean, I think this was one of the games where he was up standing a vast majority of the match, that he was very into decisions that went our way and the goals that we scored. He was very much aggravated at the times when it was not going our way, and maybe some of the, again, officiating on the day that was very, very questionable once more, which again is just not worth spending any extra airtime on. But I think the nice thing is you start to look at, and I found this table on the Chelsea subreddit from Charming Repair 2999, with just looking at our first fixture against every team played in the Premier League, and then our reverse fixture. I mean, this is one where, again, we lost that game 1-0 to Forest earlier in the season. So on aggregate, we won one, we lost one. It was 3-3 in terms of the total goals allowed and scored for each side. So on the year, the goals were the same. The points split were the same, but there are plenty of examples where we have taken our first results in the season, like this Nottingham Forest one, turned it into a win. It was the same with the West Ham result that we had. Obviously, Burnley was better the first time. Aston Villa was a loss the first time we played them. It was a win. It was a draw in the second one. The Arsenal one was a downgrade from a draw to a loss. The Brentford was an improvement from a loss to a draw. Tottenham was a win across both. City was draws across both. Newcastle was a loss that ended up going to win the back half. So, we have seen some improvement in the overall results that we're achieving. We're seeing some wins against teams that we either should have won against previously and now made it happen. In those first half fixtures, if we kind of break the season, the halves, we ended up with 25 total points, 31 goals for, 29 goals allowed. This back half of the season, 32 points. We've not even played all the matches. We've got 2 more. So very likely could be actually up to 38 total points scored or gained, rather, over the 25 first half fixtures. 42 goals scored. So an improvement there with, again, more games to play still. Though 32 goals allowed. So that is worse. And so I think there's still the concern that we need to figure out our defense, that we are getting better at scoring. Now, some of those have come in bunches, like, Cole just getting 4, right? Like, that doesn't happen every day. We want to see those maybe necessarily spread out in different times when they can help out in multiple games and not just one. But it does feel as if there's enough goodness here, again, for this Mauricio Pochettino, carrying him through into next season, allowing him to be a part of the team, allowing him to help shape what this club can be next season in terms of not disrupting, not trying to reboot again, heading into preseason, needing to bring in a new manager, potentially having to bring in a new system. You're going to have a lot of the same players still. You're not going to be able to move on as many as you'd like, potentially, in terms of the players that we have this summer, thanks to very long contracts that we have set ourselves into. And yeah, I feel as if, we know that the benchmark, and we've heard the benchmark is getting, Europa League would be ideal. Conference League, it seems like, is maybe going to be enough to carry him forward. But I don't know. I feel like the season is ending well enough at this point that unless it were to be 2 really bad results against Bournemouth and Brighton, that we are going to see Mauricio Pochettino on the touchline as the Chelsea manager next season, even if he has said some things over the past couple of days that would lead you to believe it is a mutual decision that can occur in terms of what happens next year.
Yeah, weird quotes, obviously. Like, I think the season has worn on all of us. I mean, I don't think you can be reprimanded for feeling like this has been a weird one. I think at the end of the day, the results on the right-hand column indicate a team that's playing better, it's trusting itself a little bit more, that's maybe getting some players back from injury, that is maybe more indicative of where we can go next year if we have a little bit more luck. Mm-hmm. And so I think at this point, without a ton of managers out there who I think would make the situation better, I'd be leaning that way as well. The Arsenal result was really tough for me. I think the team quit, and since that moment, they have certainly not quit. And so as frustrated as I was in that moment, and I think a lot of us were, you have to give credit where credit's due as well. Say, like, they could have easily just kind of been on the beach after that, right? Get demolished in really unsavory fashion. Then, don't really show up for the rest of the games. They have. They've gone a nice little win streak here. And I think if you end the season where I think we're going to, which is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 61, 63 points, get as close as you can to Europa League, maybe get it at the end. You feel a lot better than you did 4 or 5 weeks ago.
So speaking of that, the quest for a European spot, it does feel as if, unfortunately, Brighton could not get the work done completely yesterday. A little bit of help. And Burnley absolutely let us down after, again, I was just trying to put it out there. I was trying to set up a reality, in a mental construct and framework where Spurs would not win another game this season. And we were really close to getting that. We were really, really close to getting that. Unfortunately, it did not get delivered, but it feels like fifth is almost out of reach. Thanks, Burnley. Unless Spurs were to lose both of their matches that they have remaining, which one is against Man City, which we really, really want them to lose. We have the Sheffield game, last game of the season. Unlikely Sheffield get it done, though it could be one last hoorah in the Premier League before they go back down. And we would need to get into a better goal difference and win both of our games. We're currently both on a plus 12 goal difference. So we would hope for Man City to absolutely pound the GD in our benefit if that were to take the case. 6 is still in reach. So Newcastle face United in the midweek. They play 15 minutes after the start of our match against Brighton. So we will know what it absolutely looks like if 6 is looking very, very viable or not as we head into the last game. They play Brentford at home in their last match. We would need to win both of ours, and Newcastle would need to lose or draw in either of the next 2 matches, because just 1 point is enough or 2 points is enough to separate the 2 of us in that quest for 6. 7th is effectively safe for us to the point where United are facing off against Arsenal later today in time of recording. They have Newcastle and they have Brighton. It's very unlikely that they are going to obtain maximum points. And we would be level on points in some capacity, or if we were, our goal difference is far superior, plus 12 to minus 3. Very unlikely over the next 2 games that is going to get erased or go in a more favorable direction for Man United. And no other team, West Ham and Brighton, who are currently on a maximum of 55 points or 54 points, are going to stress us. So at minimum, I think 7th is the lowest that Chelsea will finish this season. We potentially can get into 6, which would be that guaranteed Europa League spot. And we are rooting for Manchester City in the FA Cup so that United don't get a backdoor option into European competition.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really asking for a shithouse result around Newcastle that is going to be determining factor. And if Chelsea do the job too, I mean, everything relies on us getting maximum
Correct.
Points, right? So, I think City in the FA Cup final is a foregone conclusion. I'm just going to wrap that one up right now, knock on wood. And yeah, let's see if Newcastle shit the bed and get themselves out of Europa League. I think that would be, I said this last week, I don't think it would necessarily be the most deserved result for Chelsea this season, but that's not the way that football works all the time. And if Chelsea were able to get it, I think we'd all be really impressed and happy with that result.
Well, look, that would put us, if we were in 5th and 6th, right? And so then, Tottenham and Chelsea would both have Europa League as a part of next season. That puts us on equal terms for things like the Jordan deal that's hanging out there. We did see Footy Headlines, who publishes a lot of the early leaks or concepts, had put out something this past weekend around what a Jordan brand Chelsea kit could look like, and didn't have a lot of additional context with the image. So maybe it's part of the pitch deck that went to Chelsea is what could happen, what could transpire. And so at minimum, keeping pace with Tottenham, finishing at 6, having Europa League would absolutely be where we want to be, what we would want to have happen, and gives us an opportunity to unlock more exclusive sponsorships than what we might run into if we were to be in Conference League. Though I know there are plenty of people who are very excited about the Tier 3 European cities that we would get a chance and get an opportunity to go to if we were a part of the Conference League next season, and the opportunity to say that Chelsea have won all European trophies available. And to that, I would say that is nice, but not necessarily where I want to be. Let's get back into Europa League and have a good time with it.
100%.
So we'll round this episode out with our day of the match. Nice to run it again because we had a win. Look, Moises Caicedo with 51%. Reece James had 21%. Cole Palmer, 27%. Other 1.2. In general, on the day, people were very excited for those 3 to be in the poll. You could have convinced me. And Thiago Silva, I think, had a pretty strong day as well. I saw 1 or 2 shouts for him. When we shift to the other results from this past weekend, before we get Nick's pizza opinions, we're going to have Manchester City had 4-0 against Fulham. You had Brentford 2-1 against Bournemouth. Everton beating Sheffield United. The Newcastle Brighton draw 1-1. Tottenham beating Burnley 2-1. West Ham beating Luton 3-1. Huge result for Nottingham Forest, effectively, to see that Luton did not pick up any points. Crystal Palace, man, the Palace fans at Legends were absolutely crazy after that result, beating Wolves 3-1. They are definitely in the ascendancy heading into next year. Can they keep it going as they potentially get rated for a couple of their players this summer? Who knows? And then obviously our result was 3-2, which means the table as it stands with time of recording, it is Manchester City on top with 85 points, Arsenal with 83 points in second place, Liverpool 78 points in third. No chance of Klopp winning the league in his final season as Liverpool manager. Sometimes good things happen. Aston Villa on 67 points in fourth, Tottenham on 63 points in fifth. It is very much the 1, 2, 3, 4 that will end the season and will head into the Champions League next year. And again, Newcastle on 57 points, same as Chelsea, that they do have the superior goal difference. And at the very, very bottom of the table, it's Luton, Burnley, and Sheffield. Sheffield and Burnley officially down and out. Luton is pretty much guaranteed to go down at this point, even though there is a 3-point difference. It is just a matter of goal difference, which is very tilted and lopsided in Luton's unfortunate situation there. Forest very much not getting any of their points returned after their deduction that they received for violating the profit and sustainability rules that the Premier League has in place. So it does look as if the 3 that came up are going to be the 3 that go back down. And that is where it stands at the table, Nick. But we promised it at the early part. We promised it after the ad break. We did go to a bunch of different places while you were here visiting in New York, share food opinions and recommendations for the people so that they are going to be in the area soon. If they're going to go to Legends, they're going to go to the Football Factory. Where do they need to go if they visit Gotham City?
Yeah, look, if you're ever in New York, hit up Dan. He's a great
tour guide.
Yeah, look, he just got has the juice on where to go. But look, Rolo's excellent dinner. Get the Calabrian chili flatbread, polenta bread, excellent. Their homemade mortadella was outstanding as well. Hamburger America, George Motz's spot. Unbelievable. Get the onion burger if you can only get one. It is unbelievable. Had a nice little bacon, egg, and cheese. Crispy bacon. That's the way to go. On a roll, which was great. What else did we go? We had many, many coffees. We had many, many drinks. Cocktail bar that we went to Friday was called Fresh Kills.
Fresh Kills, yep. And Williamsburg.
That place was excellent. We did a little tour de force of Williamsburg on Thursday night, and we're a little worse for wear on Friday, and that's okay.
I don't know if you can call an Amaro shot a peppermint patty type of experience, as the bartender did try to sell us on the concept, but it was a free shot, and very often I'm not going to turn that away, but that was appreciated.
No, and then I think top of the bunch for me, number one spot is Industry Pizza. I know I'm saying that wrong. I don't care. I had a bacon and fig jam slice, little basil on there, that rocked my face off. I would like to try every slice that they have. The crust, immaculate. The toppings, immaculate. The sauce, immaculate. So, yeah, do that. That all of the above. I ate well this weekend. I have many salads in my future to try and lower the old blood pressure after this one.
Yeah, there is a bit of detox that is going to need to occur heading into next week, but we are going to do that as we continue to produce more episodes of the podcast for you. We have plenty coming your way as we round out this end of the season. We've got a Brighton match preview. We're going to have a match review of our match against Brighton. We're going to have a little bit of a preview heading into the final game of the season, and plenty more coming throughout the end of this month as we wrap this Premier League season, as we reflect on how Chelsea performed. That's going to do for this episode. So until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.